We are all aware of how fast computational power has evolved over the years in speed, scalability, and most importantly, accessibility. Not a single part of our day isn't affected by hardware and software developments. Whether it's how you get your weather, hey Alexa, how quickly we were able to scale during a pandemic, or simply the products that surround us and how they come to market. It's the latter that I'm excited to talk to you about today. How tangible objects such as a water bottle, headphones, or even complex mechanical driven machines have all seen a decrease in their development cycles through software and hardware enhancements offered in today's rendering technologies. Hi, I'm Mike Saney. I'm a technical solutions consultant with Dassault Systems, and I work underneath the SOLIDWORKS brand. One of my specializations is in product rendering. Today, we're going to look at how the product development cycle has been enhanced through recent developments and the use of Iray, specifically with SOLIDWORKS Visualize. I'm also super excited to bring on a few special guests as well. Jason Poole, formerly an industrial designer of Orange County Choppers, who's now running his own company. He's going to chat about how Iray has given him an avenue to quickly and efficiently provide visual communications with his customers throughout the design process. I'll also bring on our applications managers, Ron and Bastian, and they're going to talk about some of the behind the scenes of SOLIDWORKS Visualize. The main goal of this presentation is really to understand how Iray and SOLIDWORKS Visualize have introduced rendering workflows to help complement each step of the product design cycle. Like most things, product development starts with a good idea. In the world of mechanical engineering, this is typically something that is tangible, something you can touch and feel. Anything from an insulated coffee mug to, well, a Tesla. In the beginning stages, ideas need to make it from the imagination to a form of visual communication. And since this isn't a game of charades, there's a lot of simple tools that are available to help out. Whether it's just simple bullet points on a piece of paper of product requirements, hand sketches, or even 3D cardboard models in clay are introduced in this part of the process. This is often referred to as ideation. Once some basic geometry is laid out, the next logical step is to capture those in a 3D CAD system. These programs give design and engineers a mathematical way to define the shapes, inspect and understand the fit, form, and function, all in a virtual 3D space. These CAD systems also give a more direct approach to access rapid prototyping. 3D printing is extremely common in the ideation process. Of course, a true machined or structural integral 3D prints are still critical as they're part of the design process. You need that to really test out the idea before you move forward. This is really getting into the validation. Will the product work or will it fail? Which is the next step. Validating the design against the original requirements. Will it break? Does it complete the task it's intended to do? And is it manufacturable? All of these need to get a green light in order to move into the actual production process. The design is often detailed out back in the CAD program to capture things like critical dimensions and section cuts and all the stuff that goes into it in order for it to actually go into manufacturing. Machining and tooling operations, material selection and sourcing, and a ton of other details that I'm skipping over are all included in this part. You get the idea. And finally, the go-to-market strategies. This is where they come to life. How will the end customer be aware of the great idea? How will it get to them? How are they going to buy it? Everything needed to extract the idea's actual value and make it a success. I should mention that this isn't a linear process either. There is often a lot of iterations and jumping back and forth and looping through on each one of these steps. The majority of the time in product development, multiple stakeholders are present and communication back and forth is key throughout. In fact, poor communication will introduce a lot of scope creep or can cause unnecessary changes further down in the process. Which is important to understand, the cost of change, which dramatically increases the further those changes come up down the process of product development. In fact, billions, if not trillions of dollars have been lost on recalls, retooling, missed requirements, just to name a few. Cool, so how does rendering, GPU, NVIDIA fit into all of this? Well, over the last 10 to 15 years, product rendering has become much more mainstream and it's available to the everyday designer. You don't need a high-end laptop or high-end tower to be able to create these images. Typically, it's been leveraged to build the go-to-market content, such as imagery for websites, print, catalogs, animations that go above the traditional studio approaches. Now, in much more recent years, rendering technologies have started to find themselves useful throughout this product development process, all the way to the beginning in the ideation process, all the way to the end into that go-to-market strategy. And of course, Iray has been a key component in SOLIDWORKS Visualize to align our users with this entire cycle, making it easy and accessible for any engineer or any designer to use. Now that I've mentioned the importance of proper communication during this process, let's hear from a true industry veteran, Jason Poole, formerly of Orange County Choppers. Let's hear how he keeps customers involved with visual communications and rendering technology throughout his design cycle.
Hey, what's up? I'm Jason Poole. A lot of you are going to recognize me from American Chopper. I spent about 16 years at Orange County Choppers as their senior designer. Designed about over 300 choppers, so a lot of fun there. Now I got my own business, Jason Poole Designs, and I'm based here in New York. And I do everything from conceptual designs, 3D modeling, and animations for my clients. So a lot of fun, a lot of challenging projects now that I'm on my own, but having a blast doing everything but motorcycles these days, and it's refreshing. It's like it's a whole new start, and I'm loving it, man. So doing really good.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, staying busy, so
Good. Well, thanks for taking the time to chat a little bit about it,
yeah.
about rendering and kind of on how it's really has impacted your workflow. One of the big things we were talking about earlier is just that overall timeline. So you get a customer, they reach out to you and they say, hey, I have an idea, we need a product, whatever the pitch is, whatever that initial conversation is. When we look at the workflow, that ideation process and the communication back and forth, can you just kind of go through how you engage with like your, traditional sketching and
Right.
where you engage with actually starting to throw some renders at them? And how
Sure.
important is that to the customer?
Sure. Right away. I mean, what's really cool is seeing the technology advance. I've been in this industrial design business now for about 16, 17 years. So it's like I remember hitting the render button and like, all right, it's time for lunch, and and come back like 45 minutes later to realize I had a light floating in space, or one surface was hidden. So now what's really cool is I can give my clients like dramatic effects that looks like I spent a ton of time rendering it, when really it's like it's part of my presentation to get to the end result. So right now I'm doing like I'm rendering in real time. I'm seeing what the shapes look like when different lights are applied to them. I'm seeing different shaders and textures on it, and it's part of my design workflow. It's no longer just, hey, I spent weeks and weeks on this product, it's awesome, and here's the final rendering product shots for your website to sell them. It's like, no, like I still do that, but now it's part of my everyday workflow. I'm able to see what it looks like so fast and instant that it dramatically affects the way that I'm able to design these products, and at the same time I can show them to my client right away. It's not like, I need a week to render. It's something I'm doing as I'm developing and creating. It's right there in front of me. I'm getting the feedback in real time, and it just hits me different. So it's just an awesome tool right now to be able to get that end result faster, and to get my clients involved quicker, and to get on the same page.
Do you still do kind of traditional idea approaches, and or are you finding, do you turn to rendering solutions more often, or what does that really look like? What's your balance of like sketching versus CAD and then tossing it to the rendering tool?
Right. The great thing about working for myself and doing my own thing is there's no rules. You know what I mean? So I'd say 90% of the time I start with like a number 2 pencil and a piece of paper, and just start sketching some stupid ideas and throw them away. And, oh, that's horrible, throw it away. And, oh, this isn't bad. And then maybe I'll take a picture of it, throw it on my Wacom Cintiq, start adding color to the sketching, and then I'm like, oh, well, I could model this in no time. Then I model it and in SolidWorks, and I check it out, and then I could put it into visualize real quick and see what it's going to look like with chrome added to it or car paint or something crazy.
Sure.
So there's really no rules, man. I bounce around like just crazy, man. It's like a ping pong game from this to that, and I stand up, I sit down, I'm sketching. I go out to my garage. I got a little shop here, and I got just a nice pine table and a sketchbook and a pencil sharpener, and I just start throwing lines every which way, and then I come running back through the house to where my desk is here, and it's just my workflow is there's no rhyme or reason. It's just
It's all
it's
over.
results it's results driven.
That's
How do we get to
that's
it? What we got to
creativity
do.
though, right? When do you start communicating with that customer early? Is it still ideation with sketches? Are you throwing that? Or do you start to bring ideas more when you have a little more tangibility to it? I mean, I guess what's the balance there?
Yeah, because like I mean, sometimes, and it's different for different projects. When I have a really good grasp on the project, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna light these guys up, I will take it a little bit further and throw like an animation at them. You know what I mean? Here it is rendered out. This is the product. I think we're done. But then again, it's not really fair to the client because they're invested so much in their product that I believe they need to be involved with it. You know what I mean? They're the ones
Mhm.
manufacturing it, they're the ones selling it, they're the ones marketing it and pushing it. So for me, it's like I want to work directly with them more on a team approach so that there isn't really any surprises. But trust me, there was hundreds of motorcycles that was like, oh yeah, this is gonna blow you guys away. And we just go and do it, and here it is. But my approach with my company is a little bit different. The client's a lot more involved. So I think sketches, even as crude as like a conceptual sketch with paper where the proportions aren't even right, maybe, and the shading's off, I think that says a lot, man, because it gets you to the point quicker.
I love that you said, you like working closer with your clients now and kind of having that communication, that collaboration on their design. After all, it's their product, right? They're the ones uh, taking ownership at the end of it. How do you see as you approach that early conceptual phase? Do you try to offer a lot of detail, or do you start basic fit form function and do you let it evolve as they drive it? Is that kind of the route? I guess, just a few points on like, or does that just depend on the contract and depend on the customer?
It does. They all vary so much, Mike. But like the project I'm working on now, there's like five features to this CNC machine that need improvement. So it doesn't look just like a CNC machine, just a little bit of
Mhm.
style added to it here and there. And for me, it's like I want to give them what they need, but at the same time, I want to exceed that. So if there's areas for improvement other than the one feature they really need help with, yeah, I'm going to sketch some different things. But my belief is to put it all out there, like, here's what I was thinking, and just start throwing stuff together and develop like a slideshow of sorts with different ideas. And I'm big on art boards, man. Like
Okay.
what inspires you, So I'm not afraid to take like the latest Lamborghini and look at it and be like, damn, you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
maybe it's not even a car related product that I'm designing, but I respect, the gathering these resources, putting them all on one page. And what inspires you? Is it the side of a Nike shoe that you saw the other day?
Hmm.
Is it a Lamborghini or Ferrari? And is it the new architecture that's going up? There's amazing buildings being built everywhere, and it's so cool to just see what other people are doing, architects and
Yeah.
designers. So I'm big on doing an art board and bringing that team into it because you never know where the next idea is going to come from. It could be the VP, it could be a guy, an engineer that works there, and maybe they have a new pattern or a new idea that will make their product better. So when you bring more people in and you look at an art board, uh, I think there's power in teams.
To me, I've seen it open up avenues where we're talking about your skills as an ID designer
Yeah.
and having the 2D approach to it, about all these different ways you can kick off ideas. But I don't have those. I can't draw for the life of me. What I can do is render, and I can do it quickly. So when I'm kicking an idea back to a customer very early on, simplified renderings. I use the tune rendering settings and visualize all the way through the development process to the final design, and then after production when we're going into marketing. having that ease of use, simple workflows that Visualize offers, the speed that you mentioned too with iRay rendering. Um, it's really opened up these avenues for a lot more users. Would you agree to be able to
Oh,
to
yeah.
include rendering in their daily
It,
workflows?
it, it used to be hours. Like I said, I remember like, I'm going to set this render up and go to lunch, or even like a video. I'd be like, all right, well, I got to go home now. Hopefully it's done rendering when I get in tomorrow, or I'll have to pause it and resume later. And so now I don't have to think that way anymore. It's a tool, it's an asset, and I just render and it's done. It's not like this big huge event. Like, you know, it used to be so complex, and like I remember like getting nervous about pulling off a render, and now it's like, yeah, put the model in. What do you want? Oh, you want car paint? Boom, and you just assign it, and it renders in seconds. And it used to be more than minutes, dude. It used to be
Yeah,
hours. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
a
And
lot of
like
time.
I always had the latest hardware and stuff, but now it literally is seconds. So it's
Awesome,
cool.
man.
It's cool to witness it. I mean, I sound like a dinosaur, but it's cool to see it. Like it's here, man. It's now, and it's an exciting time to be using it.
Yeah, we're relatively young guys, and we even in the last 5-10 years have seen just leaps and bounds in
Right.
terms of technology and how fast it's become, and just getting out to every user out there. It's so hey, dude, thank you so much for the time. Super awesome to talk to you as always, and yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
No doubt, Mike. All right.
Throughout my conversation with Jason, it was clear he is truly passionate about his job and the tools he uses. Jason reiterated time and time again the importance of visual communication with his customers throughout his workflow. Now, Jason brings a background of fine arts and sketching and painting in clay all to the table. That's a huge talent that most engineers and designers don't have. So it's exactly why it's critical that the SOLIDWORKS development team introduced new methods to be able to engage early on with concept type renderings. Let's tune into a recent chat I had with Bastian Kruckenberg and Ron Bates from the SOLIDWORKS application team.
Ron Bates. I'm a developer on Visualize. I've been part of Dassault for over 20 years. I've worked on the core SOLIDWORKS graphics team, all the rendering solutions that were there over the years, PhotoWorks, PhotoView 360, and yeah, so now I'm working on Visualize full time.
Yeah, so my name is Bastian Kruckeberg, and I work here for SolidWorks in the R&D team, and I manage the development team of the SolidWorks Visualize application. I've been managing development teams in this area for probably the last 8 years, I would say, and yeah, have a development and computer science background with a focus on rendering.
What's a use case for Tune? And I know one of the things that came up, has come up to me over the years, is a lot of times conceptual designers create their concept, and to share that with their clients, whoever they may be, they'll render it. And what often happens is they start out with a conceptual design and they render it, and they fully ray trace it. They put real material, they make it look real, and then they provide that to their client. The client says, "That looks great, thank you. Go ahead, full steam ahead. Let's finalize it now." And then naturally, as they design it, they have to make changes. They realize some electronic components need to fit differently, so they change the shape a bit. They make tweaks and changes, and at the end they have a slightly different result than what they showed them in the first place, and they render it again and they give it back to their client, and the client says, "That's not what we originally started with." So that's where using a conceptual look or an artistic look like Tune ultimately um, leaves a little more room for that naturally deviation of design that occurs when you start out with a concept and then fully get to a final design. I think yeah, I mean, it's a good example of a project where we were very closely collaborating with the guys in NVIDIA working on iRay in terms of what we expected and what we wanted, and then they gave us early prototype tools to see what they were doing, and it was a good collaboration. To be fair, we started with well, it starts with a discussion of why is this an important feature? Because the irony behind it, of course, is that the real goal of iRay is to produce photorealistic images, whereas Tune is a non-photorealistic, NPR, right? So I think at first it seemed like a surprising sort of request. Let's make stuff look not real for engineers. But I think NVIDIA was able to very easily and quickly see how this is a tool that's used quite frequently. Toon rendering I'm referring to when in that early phase of development, when you're not trying to make something look photoreal, but you're trying to give an idea of aesthetics and shape and just generalized look, and then further down the road you'll have a design completely done, and then maybe you use Toon for some cool artistic effects, but you also will then be producing the real final ray traced results. So we started with in PhotoView 360, we actually do have some forms of Toon rendering, line and edge. So we provided, what we was capable of doing there. We looked at what was capable in other rendering tools and packages, and just gave them NVIDIA a lot of feedback on what what we needed. And as I said, they actually developed a standalone tool to do some Toon-like output. They gave that to us. Bastian and I were able to play with that and look at different models and see how it looked and provide them some more feedback. And they got it integrated. And I'd say within, I don't know the exact time frame, but pretty quickly after it was available, we started working on integrating it directly into Visualize. So
also what we can maybe talk about, there's Iray has a we don't always directly make available what Iray provides us, but we try to add a layer of understanding our customers and our application, and how can we I mean that's really I think our main job is how can we make it easy, accessible, and understandable for our users. And I think for this Toon project, we did a pretty good job also, and we thought about, okay, so what are the different Toon effects that Iray is able to provide us, but then also how are we exposing those to our users. And this is, Ron, I think also what was your idea basically to come up with this. I probably have to look at the UI again right now to refresh my mind on it, but we have these different presets, right?
Mm-hmm. Black on white, white on black.
White on black, black on white, and those presets are really boiled down to what we think would be the the most commonly used ones. And then you still have a lot of the settings to go in and I think so. So the white on black, for example, there is no white rendering, but what we actually do is we overwrite all the materials that the model actually has with a white diffuse material. So it becomes this white shape with with outlines, because we think that's really one of the classical non-photorealistic looks or sketch type looks that you want. And we're not getting that directly out of Iray, but we are configuring the model to produce us that look.
My talk with Bastian and Ron continued, but we moved down the product development path and we discussed section cut renderings. If you're not an engineer and you haven't done CAD modeling, the detailing portion of it is creating the drawings. And in these drawings, all the dimensions and things like bill of materials are all spec'd out, and they're used in manufacturing to be able to get the product to production. Within these detailed drawings, section cutaways are often used to show internal features or specific component locations for complex assemblies. SOLIDWORKS Visualize is offered an enhanced way to create photorealistic renderings of these types of assets. And in our 2021 release, capping of the actual cutaway was a collaborative effort with Iray and our development team.
Let's go over and talk on bringing in section capping and really why you'd use that. I guess for mechanical engineering, we know in a detailed drawing it's crucial, especially complex assemblies and building bombs that are accurate and can show us why in rendering. What's the need there?
A lot of the really interesting stuff happens behind the doors, right? Happens underneath the surface of let's say an engine or something, or any complex machinery product looks simple like a black box from the outside, but in order to to communicate its function, it's very important to give your audience a compelling look to to the complexity inside, I guess. We've had these section caps or section geometry or section planes in for quite some time, but we love to take it a bit further also. It's not like we would want to stop here, but what we had in for a long time is just, I think you have 6 planes. You're able to cut your scene or your model with those 6 planes as you desire. But the problem was that we never really had any section caps. So what you ended up having is a lot of unnecessary complexity when you cut through like an engine, for example, because you always had the parts
edges
that
of all
are
the surfaces. You just see the edges of all the surfaces,
Yeah,
and it gets overwhelming.
And even though they're like
it's confusing. Right?
and built out of metal or obviously how do you say it, matter, you would see all the geometry, and that wouldn't really help you at all. So that would look completely unrealistic. And,
So what's actually happening behind the scenes when you do it?
yeah,
What's
it's
the
an
process
interesting.
like?
I think it's an interesting algorithm that goes on in the back, and I don't know if I can exactly explain it, but so what we would love to do with the section planes is that you have more control over them. That not the section planes, but the section capping, for example, you can define different materials to them and not just one color, or you can maybe texture them so you can achieve different looks also. But right now, I think it's limited to solid color, and it's an algorithm that I believe Ron is rendering backsides of materials in just that completely diffuse or flat, I think.
Flat shaded, yeah.
Flat
So it's like
color. So you always see the back of something else, and all the backsides are set to completely flat shaded. Like
it's
just
in a way, it's just a clever trick. Like if you create an open box in Visualize Effect, you create the box primitive, I think, right? So what do we call it? Yeah, we call it a box, right? So you have the top is missing, right? You just have a box. Now if we let you put if you like shade it like normal, but then we let you put materials just on the inside faces, and you used a flat material, it would look like it's capped because you wouldn't see any shadows. So all the surfaces that you see that are on the inside all look like they're right up at the top. So to answer your question, there was no geometry being created, and as a result, that's why we have sort of a little bit of a limited capability. So yeah, when you're seeing the cap and you're seeing the cap color, you're actually just seeing the inside surfaces flat shaded.
Now, not all Visualize users will dive into toon rendering or section capping, but there is one iRay enhancement that all users can agree is a game changer, no matter where you are in that product development process. And that's AI Denoiser. AI Denoiser offers ultra-fast feedback for our users without the need for super heavy graphics cards or CPU clusters. Before, they would spend a lot of time and be fairly constrained in this process, and in fact, it would deter a lot of users from even rendering at all. Now with AI Denoiser, we offer rendering solutions to the everyday engineer. iRay has become a critical tool to deliver these technologies to our community of designers and engineers who, without it, would be left with just CAD models, 2D sketches, and crude drawings to communicate to their customers and feel go-to-market content. If you'd like to try out SOLIDWORKS Visualize yourself, you can actually do an online trial for free at solidworks.com. Cruise over there, hit the Try Now button, go to the SOLIDWORKS CAD Try Now button, and you'll be able to spin up your own version of SOLIDWORKS Visualize to test out all these cool features and more.